Hey, Govan and Malone, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Talk podcast. I'm Alex, and here always with Vance.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
This episode is going to be a little different than our past episodes. For the past couple years, Sherlock Holmes has been blown up in popular media. I mean, you've got the Robert Downey Jr. movies that have come out. You've got the BBC Sherlock show.
And
You've got
the brand new, actually, it's not. I'm not sure if it's brand
no,
new. Elementary.
yeah, Elementary is about 2 years old, I think. I've only watched a couple episodes, but yeah, you've got Elementary, and then you've got an upcoming movie starring Ian McKellen, where he plays an aging Sherlock Holmes
Really?
trying to solve one last case. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that movie immensely. It's going to be awesome.
Ian
But
McKellen, duh.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, why is Sherlock Holmes so popular? Like, all this, there's got to be a reason for it, and I have a reason behind it. Um, Now, arguably, the most iconic character in the entire world is Sherlock Holmes. Um, he's appeared in 56 short stories and four novels. All of them were written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. There were numerous books, plays, films, radio dramas, and video games based off of Sherlock Holmes.
Quick
People have
trivia here, Alex. Do you know what the first Sherlock Holmes book was?
A Study in Scarlet. Dude, I
There.
own it. I own all the stories in
Oh,
one
you own
giant
all
book.
of them? All the novels, all the short stories?
I own all the ones that are written by Arthur Conan Doyle. They're all in one book.
That's impressive.
Dude,
Continue.
I love that book. Anyway, um, the Sherlock Holmes stories really shaped the mystery genre as we know it. If you think about symbols usually associated with mysteries or detectives, you would probably think of a clay pipe, a deerstalker hat, or you might even think of a silhouette of Sherlock Holmes himself. Now, um, the character of Sherlock Holmes is so brilliant and so developed that people all over the world believe that he actually once lived. In fact, there's a survey done in 2008 by UK TV Gold where 58% of the participants believed Holmes actually lived. Now, there are about 23% of people that believe that Winston Churchill was fake.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it
But
23% of that 58%?
no, it was just 20. I think it was just 23 or 23% of just all the people, interviewed. But I couldn't find the results. The only thing I could find was it was in the introduction to that Sherlock Holmes book I own. But if more than half of the people interviewed believed that he was real, then they can't be wrong, can they? And you may say, well, yeah, they can. They can all just be complete idiots. But
They could always be a bunch of conspiracists.
right. But I believe that Sherlock Holmes actually did once live, and I have evidence to back me up. And a lot of this evidence is far fetched, and you may be thinking, where do you come up with this kind of stuff, or what are you doing in your spare time if you're trying to, prove that a fictional detective once lived? Like he'd be dead today, so it doesn't even matter.
Well, the kind of people that go around looking for that kind of evidence are the people that do a weekly podcast about nerd things.
So let's jump right into my evidence because I have quite a bit of it. Um, Arthur Conan Doyle was said to base his famous detective on a professor from his college that he attended, Professor Joseph Bell. Joseph Bell taught medical science because Arthur Conan Doyle was going to be an eye doctor.
An eye
So,
doctor? An
yes,
optometrist? Really?
yes. He even had his own practice. It wasn't very successful, but he did have one. Bell had a lot in common with Holmes. He physically looked like him. He was tall and thin. He had a hawk-like nose and a thin face, and that's how Arthur Conan Doyle describes Holmes in the Study in the Scarlet. Um, they even shared a passion for deductive reasoning, and in the medical field, that's a pretty important thing to have. Trying to figure out what causes this ailment, what causes this disease. Just trying to figure something out.
And in terms of
Um,
medicine, that's what diagnostics is about. And when you look at it, there's not a whole lot of difference between diagnostic medicine, and detective work. You
as a
look
matter
at
of,
the evidence, you look at the symptoms or the evidence,
mhm.
and you try and deduce what could be causing that, where did it come from.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, have you ever watched the show House?
Dude, I love that. I actually I finished watching the 8th season. I have spent the last 2 weeks watching all 8 seasons, and I just
House
finished it.
House is based off of Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes was an ass?
Well, I mean, sort of, a little bit. But no, Dr. House was based off of Sherlock Holmes. He even lives on 221B something street. I can't remember. I've never actually seen. I've seen like maybe an episode or two of House. Never really got into it. Medical shows aren't really my thing.
That's like the only medical show I've seen, but it's awesome.
But yeah,
it's actually a really good show. I highly recommend it.
It's based off of Sherlock Holmes.
So was Sherlock Holmes a drug addict?
Yes, actually he was.
Oh.
Sherlock Holmes did cocaine and opium.
He loved his pipe.
Yeah, but no, he's very big into cocaine, and he would use it to clear his mind. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes was a drug addict.
Huh.
Where was I?
For those of you who don't know, Gregory House was addicted to Vicodin.
Was he?
Oh my god. Throughout all 8 seasons. Heavily.
But deductive reasoning, Professor Bell taught that a lot. Like, that was one of his biggest things, was he would teach deductive reasoning. Now, anybody who has read or has seen any Sherlock Holmes story would know that Sherlock Holmes was a master of disguise and costume. And it was probably this talent that gave us Professor Bell. Professor Bell really is Sherlock Holmes. You know, he's Sherlock Holmes wishing to pass himself off as somebody else, just, you know, to throw people off guard or to keep his real identity a secret.
Or at least Professor Bell is the inspiration.
Yeah. Okay. But why would Holmes wish to pass off as a medical professor at some college? Sherlock Holmes, it pretty obviously has a really, really, really large intellect. I mean, the guy's a genius. His mind is always moving, always deducing, always thinking. And the best way to satisfy his mind's thirst for data and information would be to teach at a university. And as a bonus, Sherlock Holmes would be able to pass off his knowledge to the next generation so that they might employ his methods in their everyday lives, thus creating hundreds of Holmeses wandering the planet. Because that was always important to Sherlock Holmes, was that people use their brains, that they, you know, try to figure things out for themselves. He was always getting on Watson for that. He was always telling Watson, you know my methods, employ them. And he would try to have Watson solve a small part of a case in the same way that Sherlock Holmes would, just to make sure that Watson was learning.
All right, well, I have this question for you. So, you've deduced that essentially Professor Bell is the incarnation of Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
He was the inspiration. He's got all the same attributes. But then, if that's true, do you have any evidence of where Watson comes from?
Yes, I do. And I'm just getting to that.
I am intrigued.
Okay. Who tells the stories of Sherlock Holmes? Most of the time, it's John Watson. There are a couple times where Sherlock Holmes tells the story, and there's one story, I believe, where it's told in third person. But in every other story, it's John Watson.
So
it's always John Watson in first person telling the story of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
And Conan Doyle does this for a good reason. It's to keep the reader from witnessing Holmes's thought process. It keeps the reader in suspense and blows them away when he concludes the case. But have you ever seen a picture of Arthur Conan Doyle?
I have not, actually. I'm going to look that up on my phone right now.
He looks really, really similar to how Watson was portrayed in the earlier films and TV shows. So, you know, you always see Watson as that kind of big, kind of fat dude with a thick mustache.
Yeah.
That's what Arthur Conan Doyle looks like.
Huh. He's got a heck of a handlebar mustache, doesn't he?
Exactly. So, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that Conan Doyle is actually Watson. That's right. The fictional writer of the Sherlock Holmes stories is, in fact, the real writer of the books.
Huh.
Like I told you earlier, Conan Doyle was a real doctor. He wasn't an army doctor like Watson was, but he was a doctor.
He also loves the pipe.
Oh yeah, that too. You may say that he was only drawing from his own life, you know, to write the character of Watson as a doctor, but that really wouldn't make sense. Because let me ask you, if Sherlock Holmes never existed, then where did Conan Doyle get his fascinating thought process for the character? If Conan Doyle created Holmes, that would mean he was just as clever as the detective, right?
Right.
So if that were true, why was Conan Doyle really never consulted for a crime to be solved? And now there was one. He actually did work alongside police to solve a crime one time, and I believe the case was closed. Like they actually managed to figure it out, but I can't remember.
Hmm.
Why didn't he ever become an actual detective? Because he could have really made a lot of money doing that.
But instead he stuck to writing books then.
Right, and having a subpar um, optometrist office. And in fact, he didn't even really like the Sherlock Holmes stories.
What?
And I'll get into that more in a little bit. But really, Holmes wasn't a creation. Holmes was real, and Conan Doyle really was Watson. Conan Doyle used the name Watson as a pseudonym so that he would only be connected to Holmes as the author of his adventures. Perhaps he didn't want to be hounded by fans inquiring whether or not they could meet Sherlock Holmes.
Huh.
221B Baker Street is indeed a made-up address. But why? Well, it's simple. Watson didn't want anyone pestering him and Sherlock in the privacy of their own home. With the popularity Holmes gained after Conan Doyle published his first work, A Study in Scarlet, Sherlock must have been wary of the public eye. I mean, and they even actually showcase that in the Sherlock TV show. He becomes really popular after um, after he solves a really, really important case, and the public eye is all on him, and he didn't really like that. A man of his caliber and mental intellect would be incredibly famous, and he was. Some years after the first story was published, Conan Doyle was getting sick of the Sherlock Holmes tales, and he was. He thought that he could be off doing better things. He could be writing better stories. So he was getting really tired. He didn't think that Sherlock Holmes was serious enough.
So why did he continue to write?
I actually am about to get onto that. He decided that he would kill Holmes off and be rid of him forever. He was trying to find a way to do that, or a way to stop writing these Sherlock Holmes tales. Now, Conan Doyle went off with Holmes to the Reichenbach Falls in Switzerland, knowing that this would be the last case he ever went on with a detective, because he was, like I said, getting sick and tired of doing this.
Was he just tired of writing about
Yeah,
Sherlock Holmes, or was he tired
yeah,
of the fans?
he was tired of writing about him because he wanted to do other, more serious stuff, and might have been tired of the fans too. But I think it was more just getting tired of the stories.
Well, that's kind of a shame when you think about it.
Yeah, especially since they're the most famous stories he's ever written. Everything else that he's written really
Everyone knows him for writing Sherlock Holmes. No one knows
exactly.
him for writing.
But
I can't even think of anything else.
Right. They were tracking Professor James Moriarty, who is, for some reason, everyone claims him to be Sherlock Holmes' most famous nemesis, even though he appears in only one story. They found Moriarty at the top of the falls, and there was a fist fight between Holmes and Moriarty, ending with both of them plunging to their deaths.
Oh.
And that's a very, very famous scene in the Sherlock Holmes stories, is him falling to his death with Moriarty. It's portrayed in just about every incarnation of Sherlock you can find. It was in the Robert Downey Jr. movies. It's in the Sherlock TV show. It's probably in Elementary, or at least will be, but I haven't seen Elementary because I think it's a blatant ripoff of Sherlock. But yeah, it is one of the most famous scenes in Sherlock Holmes. And, this plunging to their deaths worked out perfectly for Conan Doyle. He wouldn't have to worry about the tales anymore. Sherlock Holmes was gone. There's nothing to write about. He could move on to bigger and better things. He had no funeral for Sherlock Holmes, as that would attract attention from the public. Just, a private little, not even a burial, because he didn't have the body. Just a little, something small. People wouldn't be there. But soon after he ended the Sherlock Holmes stories, he began drawing ideas for a kind of horror story. And he realized, after kind of thinking about it a little bit, that it would be the perfect Sherlock Holmes story to ever be told. And do you know what story I'm talking about, Vance? It is the most famous detective story ever. It's considered by a lot of people to be the best mystery ever written. No?
I can't. I'm thinking, and it's right there, but I can't think of the name.
Well, this story was The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yes. Ah.
people consider it to be the best mystery ever written. And I've only read it once, and it was a long time ago, and I was like in 8th grade, so I didn't understand what the heck was going on, and I need to read it again. But I think this is the only fictional story by Conan Doyle, because at that time Sherlock Holmes was dead.
Right.
So that case never actually happened. Plus, it's a bit supernatural.
Unrealistic?
Yeah, it's a little unrealistic, but yeah. But soon, Sherlock Holmes revealed to Arthur Conan Doyle that he wasn't dead, and he had managed to survive the plunge from the falls. I won't reveal how he did it, just because it's a major spoiler, and it's quite fascinating. You'll have to read The Adventure of the Empty House for that explanation.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention, spoiler alert, because I don't know where Alex is going with any of this, so I'm not responsible for any spoilers he partakes in.
Oh, right. Yes, quite. There's not really any more
Quite.
spoilers. There's not really any spoilers. That was only it. I wasn't gonna spoil anything major.
All right.
But after after he revealed to Arthur Conan Doyle that he in fact wasn't dead, this allowed for 34 more cases to be solved. Because after Sherlock Holmes returns in the book, there are about 34 more stories, both novels and short stories. I think there's 2 novels and then 32 short stories. Afterwards, after all these cases were solved, both of them most likely retired from solving crimes. Of course, Sherlock Holmes solved over 70 cases with Watson, so it really can't be quite clear when they both retired. There are cases that Watson mentions in the books that aren't written down. Like
Right.
he'll mention titles of stuff or certain cases, but the stories don't appear in the books.
Right.
But it can't really be clear when they both retired, but it would have to have been around 1930, which was the year Arthur Conan Doyle passed away of a heart attack. But see, this is where I'm not entirely convinced that he died then.
You think he faked his death?
Yes, I think he pulled a Sherlock Holmes on us. Think about it. He was a medical doctor. He did have access to medicines that could bring on the physical effects of a heart attack, but wouldn't be fatal. Perhaps he faked his death so that he could escape London and move somewhere that would give him peace and quiet after numerous years of solving crimes. I mean, those medicines did exist back then. Have you seen the Sherlock Holmes movie, the first one?
Robert Downey Jr. or?
Robert Downey Jr., yeah.
No, I haven't seen those. They're on my list.
You haven't seen those? Oh my goodness, man. So when you come to Ohio, I'm kidnapping you and you're coming to my house. We're watching Sherlock Holmes.
I have to come to your house anyways, dude.
Oh yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that does happen. In one of the movies. It's not a big spoiler. It's just a guy. Yeah. Anyway, those medicines do exist, and I think they still exist today. They bring on the physical effects of a heart attack, but it's not actually fatal. Which would be quite nice from escaping stuff. Just fake a heart attack. So yes, I really do believe that Sherlock Holmes walked among us in Victorian era England. And he's famous for saying, "You see, but you do not observe." The evidence really is there before us. But we can see it, but we don't fully comprehend it. And the fact that he really did exist is, well, elementary.
Wow, you just did, didn't you? You did just do that.
Yep, I did just do that.
You did just do that. Oh my god. Well,
I never told you. I wrote this crazy fan theory about 2 years ago as in a junior year, and Brett got mad at me.
Brett got mad at you?
He's told me I was being an idiot for trying to prove that Sherlock Holmes actually existed.
Dude, we all know that you're an idiot. He does not need to point it out. Brett's one of our friends from back in high school. Well, that is very compelling evidence. But what you have, Alex, is circumstantial at best.
Right. Oh, I know. It's hard to prove that he actually did exist. The only real thing that I have that's really
you only have similarities.
Right, but the only piece of evidence in that whole thing that I have that could actually be plausible is the fact that if he really created Holmes, that means he's as smart as Holmes. So why wasn't he a detective? Because he could have done it. That's the only piece of evidence that I had that could actually be true.
Yeah. Everything else was just similarities,
Yeah.
Professor Bell, Sherlock, very smart. Watson, doctor. Doyle, a doctor.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Yeah, it was just I don't know. I mean, a lot of people do believe that he did exist, and it's fascinating.
Yeah,
Like
it's always interesting to
why?
see fan theories for anything. I actually really love reading and hearing fan theories about everything, and
Hmm.
even some of the craziest stuff. Like I absolutely love reading some of the fan theories for like Five Nights at Freddy's, just because some of them are so outlandish, and that's the thing I really love about fan theories.
Yeah.
And
But
what you just read was a pretty interesting one. How?
when you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, you get a lot of different crazy fan theories because the show Sherlock, it always ends on such a every season ends with a huge cliffhanger, and we get 2 years between seasons, which really sucks because we
2
get three
years?
episodes and then 2 years in between.
How many episodes?
There's three episodes per season. They're each an hour. They're each an hour and a half.
What?
But yeah, it's bad, dude. You should see Tumblr after each season ends. It gets crazy. We
Dude,
start
I'm afraid.
theorizing everything.
Alright, there's a few things where Tumblr is a bad place to go after. Sherlock, Doctor Who, and,
Supernatural.
well, Supernatural, but there's a smaller, not nearly as big section for Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's. But
I've
no,
never even seen Supernatural. Is it really that popular of a show?
dude, yes, on Tumblr, it's everywhere. Dude, I don't even watch Supernatural stuff, and I still like reblog Supernatural. I mean, I watch Supernatural like maybe once a week, once every couple weeks.
I've never even seen it.
It's a pretty good show.
But like
But
I go on Tumblr every now and then, I'm not a frequent visitor, but I will feel the repercussions of a Sherlock season finale weeks, even months after its end.
dude, you'll feel it a year after it ends. You'll feel it until the next season begins, because, like I said, the after season 2 ended, it was bad. It was so bad. Sherlock Holmes at the end of season 2 fakes his death in the Reichenbach jump that I talked to you about
And this is why we
earlier.
give spoiler alerts.
Right. Well, this is first of all, the book is over 100 years old, so I mean, you know, but he fakes his death, but he appears at the very end. And the episode's titled "The Reichenbach Fall." You should all know where this is going. Anyway, um, everyone was trying to figure out, well, how did he do it? What went on? Like, how did he survive that? That was a fall from a freaking building. Like, what? And it got crazy, dude. Some of the theories were so out there. It was insane. Some of the theories that fans had on Tumblr actually made it into the show.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, Tumblr can be very influential over TV shows.
Here's the thing, dude. Social media as a whole is so influential nowadays in a lot of TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we theorize over the smallest stuff. It got crazy.
And that is why I don't go on Tumblr that often.
I practically live there.
Alex, let's be honest. You live under a rock with a little like electricity and a computer, huddle up in a small little nest.
That's actually not wrong, and that's sad.
That is sad. You need to get out more, son.
I need friends to get out with.
Well, you see, you would have friends to go out with if I lived in Ohio. We are getting way off topic.
We are. Well, there's not really much to go over. I don't know. It's the existence of Sherlock Holmes to me is a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
But and I did, like I said, I did write this 2 years ago. Right when I was at the peak of my Sherlock Holmes fanness. But I'm still a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. Sherlock is my favorite show. But
would you say that you're at that obsessive stage where every minute you're like Sherlock Holmes?
Not so much. Not really. I mean,
Alex,
I am.
Alex, it's more believable if you don't hesitate.
Okay, fine, I am. And as a matter of fact, right before we started this call, I was reading my Sherlock Holmes book, and after I ended, I'm going to go take a shower and then go back and read it again.
Lucky you.
But
I don't really think there's anything left to say.
yeah, there's not much. I just, any of the listeners, if you have any evidence or you want to try to dispute some of my evidence, definitely leave a comment. I'll try to get a conversation going. You know, I do have a lot of the stuff that I have, theorized didn't make it into the final paper because I did spend a lot of time researching Arthur Conan Doyle, Joseph Bell, and Sherlock Holmes, trying to figure out, what could be plausible, how could he have lived if he did. So, if you have any questions or any comments or anything, let me know and I'll try to reply to your inquiries.
And you know what? We're actually kind of intrigued to see what other people think. If you have any fan theories that you think are pretty intriguing, leave them in the comments,
Yeah,
YouTube
let me.
now has an unlimited character limit, so...
Wait, does it seriously?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Holy crap.
I mean, like, people can actually make ASCII art because it's unlimited.
That's
So
awesome.
if you have any crazy theories about Sherlock Holmes, or if you actually have any cool fan theories about anything, really, we're always, looking to find some of those. Because like I said, I really love reading them. And we are actually, this is a little bit of an announcement. We're approaching the end of the season here at the Nerd Talk podcast. And so we're going to start needing new ideas for episodes. So if you have any ideas for an episode we can do in Season 2 of the Nerd Talk podcast, feel free to leave that in the comments. And we always try to read all of our comments. So
yeah, but I'm not busy at work or anything. I do try to get on and read some of the stuff.
So if you have any ideas for episodes, or even if you want to be on the show, shoot us a message or leave it in the comments, and we'll look into it.
We also do have a Facebook page that you can also send us your inquiries and questions and stuff. That can all go there. I do monitor that pretty well.
Yeah, so do I. So I think that pretty much about sums it up.
Yeah,
So if you beautiful nerds out there have enjoyed this episode of the Nerd Talk podcast, be sure to leave a rating and possibly consider subscribing. It really helps us out.
Yeah.
And
it'd be quite nice.
What's that?
It'd be quite nice if you got subscribers.
It would. And we hope you have an awesome day. And until next time, my friends, stay nerdy.
They see me mowing my front lawn. I know they're all thinking I'm so white and nerdy. Think I'm just too white and nerdy. Think I'm just too white and nerdy. Can't you see I'm white and nerdy? Look at me, I'm white and